Hey guys, good morning. It's Thursday. Welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. Brian, Mr. Smith Kitchen. It's Thursday, and it's morning, and I thought today we would make a pie that's really easy to make, but it does take a lot of time. Well, not a lot of time, but a little bit of time. There's a lot of cool down processes, things like that, but really basic ingredients. It'll teach you how to make a pudding for the pie filling. We're going to do a banana cream pie, which I think is going to be awesome. We'll do a homemade whipped cream to go on top of it. If you don't want to make a homemade whipped cream, you can just buy some whipped cream. And we're going to do this one on a vanilla wafer crust, like the little vanilla wafers. So it'll almost be like a banana pudding that, my mom used to make a banana vanilla wafer pudding like forever when we were kids. And we still make it here on occasion, and it's just simply vanilla pudding, vanilla wafers mixed into it, crushed up, mixed into it, and you put some whipped cream on top of it in a bowl. This time we're going to do it in a pie. So instead of having the vanilla wafers in the pie, we're going to use it as a crust. And then we're going to make a vanilla custard, which is pudding. And we're going to layer bananas in between the custard, put some bananas on top, Cool Whip on top of that. And I think it's going to turn out awesome. I don't know because I've never made it, but we're going to find out. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for coming by. I hope you get something out of this video, out of my channel. If you are returning, thank you. I'm glad you find the time to come back and listen to what I got to say. Don't forget to subscribe right down there somewhere, and the notification bell is right next to it if you want to know when my videos come out. And that way we can hang out together. Thumbs up, thumbs down are great. Comments always welcomed. The thumbs up, thumbs down aren't really necessary though. I'm not monetized. I don't do this for money. I'm documenting myself for my future generations and anybody that cares to want to know about me. Comments are awesome. I comment back on all of them. I like communication in that aspect. Sorry, the snow's melting off the garage, and I just found it cool for a second. Only thing I ask is you be respectful with your comments. You don't have to agree with me. It's nice if you do, but you don't have to. Hands down, everybody's got their own opinion, but just think before you type, all right? Nothing rude or vulgar. It'll get you kicked out of our community in a heartbeat, with very little second chances. We have all ages. We try to practice being a good neighbor, so on and so forth. So just think before you type, and most people do. If you're one of my new subscribers, welcome. I'm glad you subscribed. That being said, let's make some pie filling. We're going to start with the crust. That's the important one. First thing we're going to do is make sure there's nothing in the oven. Nope. Then we have something in the oven. Baking sheet from last night's dinner. If you want to see last night's dinner, you should check out yesterday's video. The only thing I didn't show how to make for the meal we had for guests yesterday was the schnitzel. We made a chicken schnitzel, which schnitzels can come with just about any meat. It's the thickness of the meat. It has to be thin. It was a question that was asked here last night. But the portobello and penne noodle casserole came out amazing. Everybody liked it. The broccoli was a hit. It was broccoli and garlic with salt, pepper, olive oil, and a little crushed red pepper. Very simple side dish. Those two in themselves could be a meal. But I made them both sides. And then we had the chicken schnitzel on top of that. But anyhow, let me get the camera down here so you can see what I'm doing. And we'll start making some crust. I'll go over ingredients and all that stuff with you. All right? Hold on for me once. All right, so here we are. Let's go over some basic tools you may need, because there's always something that you'll need. And, most of the time, a spatula is very important. A whisk is very important. Although for the crust, the whisk not so much. And then you can do your crust one of two ways. All right, but the first thing you're going to need is some vanilla wafers, which there's about 60 of them, or a small package full. It's 230-ish grams. is what you'll need. First ingredient. Crust is literally only 3 ingredients. So the second thing you're going to need is a way to crush them. You'll either need to put them in a baggie and crush them up with a meat mallet or your rolling pin or whatever you have available, hammer, whatever. And we're gonna crush these up, and then you will need a 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. Now, normally I just say look at the stick of butter and measure it out, and it tells you everything you need to know. Well, if you do that with 1/3 of a stick, you need 1/3 of a cup. 1/3 of a cup, it just tells you it's 5 1/3 tablespoons, which the tablespoons are marked out, but not into thirds. Now, some butter companies do show where a mark for 1/3 of a cup. These did not. So, just so you know, that's about 79 grams of butter. Okay, so you'll measure out 79 grams of butter and melt it down. And the third ingredient is simply a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. That's just the sugar you put in your coffee, whatever you wish. The last tool you will need, because you can mix those up in a bowl, which we're going to do, but the most essential tool in baking, and I say this in every video only because I think it's very important to have, is a scale. Here's my scale right here. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive. This was like, I think right around 20 bucks, maybe a little less. And it has served me well for a very long time. I think I've only had to replace the batteries in it once. It's pretty spot on accurate. Well, it is spot on accurate till you get down to like 1/10 of a gram. And then it wobbles a little bit, but for the most part, even the 1/10 of a gram is pretty spot on. So first thing we're going to need to do is grind up our vanilla wafers. Right, there's our vanilla wafers. And like I said, it's about 230-ish grams. A little more, a little less won't hurt in this case. Or about 60 wafers if they're about yay big. About an inch and a quarter-ish round. And then we just got to simply pulverize these. So if you haven't seen this before, I've used it a couple times now. It's my cordless, or our cordless, Chris got it for us, food processor. Like I said, if you don't have one, it's okay. You don't have to use one, but we have one. The only thing I've used it for so far is making dough and shredding some cheese. And it's worked well, but we're going to see how she works, otherwise. Let me turn her up. Maybe. Up. It's down. Up. I'm still getting used to it. It's not a, And you want to get it down to a pretty decent powder, which I think we're there. Now if I can just remember how to open it, we'll be in better shape. There we go. All right. I mean, you don't want it quite a powder. You don't want it like powdered sugar powder, but you want it to be, you don't want big chunks in there. So about like that is good. Just no big chunks. If there are, like I said, if you don't have a food processor or you don't want to dirty it up, Ziploc baggie and a rolling pin works just as well. All right, we're in good shape there. So the next thing we need that I got to go get real quick is a bowl. Be right back. Okay, bowl. There we go. Quick and easy. We're going to dump our beat up vanilla wafers in there. Set this all to the side for cleanup later. And then we're going to add our 1/4 cup, 50 grams of sugar. We're going to add our 79 grams of melted butter. Get that in there. You want to make sure your butter is melted because you want it to soak into those vanilla wafers. And then we're just going to mix it up real good. You know, this is going to be our pie crust, essentially. I mean, it's that easy. It's not hard to do at all. Now, you want to make sure all your Nilla wafers get coated with butter, okay? And now you don't want it so wet that I'll show you the texture once we get it mixed up. You don't want it so wet that it's mushy, but you don't want it so dry that it won't hold together if you press it in your hand, is what I'm trying to get at. Well, I'll show you here in just a second. And if you need to, add a little more butter. Might I recommend you only do it like a teaspoon at a time, though, because you don't want to overdo it. And while I'm putting this together, I learned something kind of interesting. So some crust you have to put in the oven like this to bake, like if you do a graham cracker crust or an Oreo cookie crust. Some recipes call for you to bake it in the oven for 10 minutes, which I'm going to do with this one. But some of them just tell you to put it in your freezer for about a half hour. Well, I never understood what the difference was until I read an article this morning. And it was talking about, it depends on what you're going to do with the pie. If you're going to leave the pie out, because the butter and the sugar you put in this are the binding agents. Okay, so the butter, if you put it in the fridge, the butter will harden, which gives you a hardened pie crust. Where if but the sugar does not melt, so it does not, you know, it doesn't melt any more than the warm butter will allow it to, which isn't much. So if you're going to leave your pie out, say for a good amount of time after you make your pie, your crust will start to fall apart if it's just refrigerated or frozen. Where if you bake it off in the, par bake it in the oven for 10 minutes, it'll be firm because everything's cooked in, the sugar's melted, because you got to let it sit to room temperature after you bake it, but the sugar has a chance to solidify and also becomes a binding agent. So that way, if it's a pie that you're going to leave out for any amount of time, so you're taking it to a party, it's going to sit out most of the evening, you'll have the crust will hold together. That's the difference. All right, so the next thing we will need that I had sitting here, I thought, is our pie pan. I am using a 9-inch pie pan that I did not have sitting there, and I've got a lid for it. That way I can put it in the fridge. Because this pie, I believe you want to keep refrigerated. So we've got our 9-inch pie pan, and you can spray it with a nonstick sprayer or butter. I am not. I mean, it's glass. I don't think it'll stick. I could be wrong. We'll find out. But I don't recall ever greasing a pie pan beforehand. You know what? Let's do it anyhow. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Bad ideas come from, not being sure. Although you can be right sometimes, but just in case. Doesn't hurt. I'll spray it down with some vegetable oil. You could also use butter, Crisco, whatever you have available or you prefer. And then we're going to take our pie crust mix and we're going to pour it in. Now, I also in the same article read an interesting technique that I'm going to try. First, this guy had written, or it might have been a lady, I don't actually know who wrote the article, but they talk about, okay, so most of the time when you press in your pie crust like this, you start in the center, press it flat, and work your way out. But they said to bring your stuff to the edges first, bring it up the edges first. It almost feels like I may need a little more butter in that, but we'll see. We'll see how it holds together. Bring together your edges first, and then do your middle. And I'm struggling to remember what the reason was now, why, but I think it was for a more even consistency, and that way you got it all the way up to the top. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. We are not trying to win any contests. We're baking this because we enjoy baking. Now, I mean, you want to be successful. You want to do it as best as you can. But if your crust doesn't turn out perfect for whatever reason, it's okay. You know, there's no rule that says you have to have this, you know, perfect. And I forgot to turn on my oven. So let's get that going real quick. We made sure there was nothing in there, but we didn't start her up. And then I got to talking. That's what happens. I get distracted easy sometimes. But we're going to go ahead and get this pie crust formed out. Make sure it's nice and even. I am going to go get one of my measuring cups, my larger measuring cups, so I can press this down. And make sure we are golden on the bottom. Now, my end goal is always right in this little ring here, yeah, right in the crevice of the pie, is to get that as even as the rest of the pie. A lot of times, and like I said, this is just me being me, but a lot of times I'll make that lip up really thick. And I've been practicing as I make my pie crust on not making it so thick. Yeah, so it's even like the rest. It doesn't hurt anything if it is, by any stretch of the imagination. It's just me being me. All right, so we got our pie crust in the pie pan. We are looking pretty neat. I'm tidying up. Yeah, like I said, if it's not perfect, it's not perfect. I'm really not sweating it. I don't do this for contest or show, you know, or bragging rights. Although sometimes, I mean, my pies do turn out nice. With one of the cherry pies I made for Christmas, the cherry pie I made for Christmas, not one of them, the only cherry pie I made for Christmas. It was the first time I was ever completely successful with the lattice. You know, if you don't know what lattice is, it's the dough that stripes, goes both directions, looks like lattice fencing. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, now that's an award-winning, you know, looking crust there. I think that would give the ladies at the old state fair a run for their money. Yeah, very proud of it. But, you know, I don't strive for that. All right, well, there's our pie crust. So what we got to do next is, like I should have done before we started making it, and started to and didn't, we should have our oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to put this in the oven for 10 minutes. Okay, just 10 minutes. And what things you might want to look for are the top edge of this should be golden brown. You know, or at least well on its way to golden brown. That way you know it's baked right. You don't want to over bake it because then you get a dry crust that falls apart. But you don't want to under bake it either. Yeah, as far as the par bake goes. So 10 minutes, and then we're going to take it out of the oven and let it cool. So when I come back, I'll show you the pie crust and we'll start working on the filling. All right, see you here in just a minute. The timer just went off on the oven, and we're going to pull the pie crust out and set it on the plate, or on a cooling rack out in the dining room. Get you down here where you can see a little better. Get this out of here. Should have grabbed my oven glove. Take a look at our pie crust. See where we're at with that. Oh, it turned out quite nice. There is our pie crust. Now all we have to do is just let this cool. You know, so that way the butter hardens back up a little and the sugar hardens back up a little. So I'll set it out here. All right, so now that's on a cooling rack. It's cooling. Turn the light off. We've turned the oven off because we're not going to need it for a little bit. No sense of keeping it on. Matter of fact, we shouldn't need it again at all. Kind of think of it. Next thing we need to do is make our custard for it. You need a sauce pot or saucepan pot. So something kind of large. It's got to hold at least 3 cups of milk. All right, and then we're going to need 2 eggs, full eggs, and then just 2 egg yolks. And we're going to break those up, all right? And try to have them at room temperature. You know, things mix better, whisk better when they're at room temperature. Dairy, you always want to try to have at room temperature. Now, I mean, we're going to heat all this up, so it's not a huge ordeal if they're not, but yeah, you want to try to have them at room temperature. Baking principles apply. Yeah. So we've got that mixed up. We're just going to kind of set it to the side. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to turn our burner on. All right. And to this, we're going to add our milk. I'm using whole milk. Okay. And we're going to put in 750 grams or 3 cups. That'd be 750 milliliters also in the sauce pot. All right, get that out of the way. We're going to add some sugar. We're going to add, yes, that's exactly what we're going to add. 250 grams or 1 1/4 cups of just granulated sugar, plain old white sugar. We're going to add that in there. We're going to add 1/3 cup or 43 grams of cornstarch. That's our thickening agent. So that'll help us get that custard consistency. So will the eggs, you know, and the sugar. It all but cornstarch, that's its job, you know, is to do that. We're going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which is 1 gram, which I didn't measure out. That's all right. It's about a pinch, if you must know. Is a 1/4 teaspoon. It's not a lot. All salt does in baking really is just enhance the flavors. Now, I'm using a kosher salt and I'm using a finer grain kosher salt. If you do not have, if you just buy regular kosher salt, crush it up. Back of the spoon, pestle and mortar. Take a bunch of it and put it in a food processor and mix it up. You want it fine grain. With large pieces of kosher salt, I have found numerous times, and Chris is usually the one that it happens to. Chris is my wife, in case you're new. That they end up getting a chunk of salt. And then you get to hear, oh, I just had a chunk of salt. And you want to whisk this together. Okay, now with the heat on, okay, we're whisking. We don't want to stop whisking. And this is about a 5 to 7 minute process. This does take a minute. What we're doing is we're thickening this up, but it'll start thickening at the bottom, all right, and not at the top. So if you're not whisking, you end up burning the custard at the bottom and having a liquid on top. So I'm going to go ahead and get this whisked up, and then once we get it whisked up, we'll move on to the next step, all right? All right, so we're thickened up. You know, we're nowhere near milk consistency anymore. It should be about the thickness of condensed sweet milk. Condensed milk is kind of what you're looking for. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. What I did, I started out on medium-high, and once it started to thicken up, I turned it down to medium-low. That way we didn't burn, and I didn't have to sit here and act like a fool, but we've gotten it nice and thick. So the next thing we need to do, I'm going to go ahead and turn my stove off, and then I'm going to take my eggs right here. Yeah, I want to keep stirring a little bit because the bottom of my pan's still hot. We're going to take about 1/2 cup of our mix, and we're going to temper our eggs. Now, to temper your eggs, you just take a whisk, and you start moving your eggs around because we don't want to scramble the eggs. We want to, cook them. So we slowly pour in this 1/2 cup, just like such. And what it's doing is it's warming the eggs up to the temperature of our custard. Okay? So we got that good, right? We're good there. See? And that way it doesn't curdle any of the eggs, doesn't scramble them. You just want to make sure you're mixing. That's the important part. All right, we've got that mixed in. So the next thing we need to do is start mixing this, our main custard, and we're just going to slowly pour in the eggs, but we want to consistently stir, constantly stir, until we get it all in there. Get my scraper, I guess you call that a spatula, just like such. Then set our bowl aside. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to whisk this for about another minute or so and get it all combined. Make sure the eggs are nice and cooked. They're all nice and warm and everybody's playing well together. All right, so about a minute or two of mix. All right, so we got her mixed together. Go ahead and get her off heat. Get her whisk out of there. Now, when you're doing custards, and I learned this a while back, there is a difference in whisks. See how this one's pointy and this one's bubbly? This is a French whisk. If you have one of these, if you have to pick only one whisk, this is probably the better whisk. The reason for it is you can get down in the corners with it because it's pointy. And that's what you want. But our eggs are incorporated. They're, playing well with others. So now we're going to take a bowl. We're going to put our custard in the bowl. I know you're saying to yourself, why are you transferring it? And I suppose if you had the right sauce pot, you wouldn't have to. But we have to do some more stuff to it. And the other problem with keeping it in your pot, especially like in my case, this is cast iron, even though it's coated. And cast iron will hold its heat forever, which means that thing's going to continue to cook for a minute if I leave it in there. So we've got it in the bowl, and that's not what we wanted to do. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. I mean, you can put less in it if you want. We're essentially making a vanilla custard to go with vanilla wafers, that will go with the bananas, which is a classic banana pudding recipe, banana vanilla wafer recipe. Like I said, we're just putting it in a pie crust. Then we're going to add 4 tablespoons of butter. Okay? And what that does is it's going to help with the smoothness, the creaminess, the shine, and we're just going to mix this together until the butter is melted, is all we're going to do. Okay. So we got this mixed up nice and smooth. I mean, it is smooth. It's still warm, so it's a little runny, but see how it's, got like a warm pudding consistency, which is what we want. So our next step, and this is the easiest step, it is a little time consuming, but it's easy. We got to let this cool. Now, to cool it a little quicker, I'm going to cover it in saran wrap and I'm going to stick it in the fridge. Okay? Now, when you cover it with saran wrap, if I can get or plastic wrap or whatever you want to call it, when you cover it with the clear wrap, if I can get the box to shut again. There we go. Get that tore off there. You don't want to cover it like this with because you trap air in there. And what happens when you trap air in there is you end up with a skin on it. Well, I mean, and the skin's okay. If that happens, it's okay. Just peel it off because it really will just peel right off. But we want to put our plastic wrap, our cling wrap, all the way down along the custard. Okay, just like that. And then I am going to stick this in the fridge so that way it will cool down. Now, we don't want it to cool down to room, to like solid cold, because then it'll form a mold and if that happens, it's okay. What you'll have to do is bring it out, let it warm up a little bit, and mix it. Okay, you'll just take your spatula and just mix it back up. It may get a little clumpy and it may not be quite as smooth looking, and that's okay. It's still going to taste just like a banana cream pot. So I'm going to put this in the fridge, maybe for 15 minutes or so. I'll check it every few minutes and see where we stand, but I just want to get it down to close to room temperature. I mean, in reality, you could even put it in the pie crust now and just put it in the fridge. But I don't really want to do that because I want to be able to layer it with, a light layer of custard, bananas, and then we'll put it in the fridge, and we'll talk about what to do after that. All right, so as soon as I get this down to room temperature, I'll have a different camera angle, and we will do the next steps. All right, see you in a second. Okay, so we're back, and it's been, half hour, 45 minutes. Had time to clean up, get everything put back together. So now we're ready to finish up the pie, so we can, the pie, so we can get it in the oven. So we'll go ahead and get the saran wrap off of there. Now, the custard's not cold. Okay, I mean, it's firmed up, it's nice and jiggly, but it's not cold by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a hair warmer than room temperature. Yeah, it's about, I don't know, 78, 79 degrees. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take just a little bit of the custard. While I got things cleaned up, I cut some bananas up. So I sliced up 4 bananas. Mine were kind of small. Now, if you get bigger bananas, 3. If you want a lot of bananas, however many bananas you like in your banana cream pie, really. It's completely up to you. I cut mine about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick. You know, but if you want thicker bananas, you can. Thinner bananas, you know, however you want to do it. This is like one of the few times in the realm of baking that you can actually kind of get away with anything. So we got a small, just a little layer, light layer of custard on there. And then we'll grab some of our bananas and stick them on there and eat one in the process because they're good. Now, even if you don't, because I don't think we'll use all these bananas in the actual pie. I mean, if we do, that's okay. I got more. Because we're not only going to layer it in here, but we're going to put some on the top also when we're ready to serve it. So, and depending on the banana and the ripeness of it, it may start to go brown on you beforehand. All right, so we're going to do another layer, about half the batch. That custard turned out really good. I am most impressed. Now we'll do another layer of bananas. Look, little suckers. Hands off. Then we'll do the final layer, custard. That's going to take it right up to the edge, which is okay. That. Probably could have made my crust just a little taller, but that's all right. That's all right. Because when it, I mean, even see like how it's, well, I mean, I don't know if you can tell from your angle, but the custard's just a hair higher than the pie crust. But you know what? It's okay, because this custard's going to get hard, it's going to solidify, and it's not going to go anywhere. So where it is now is pretty much where it's going to be always. Yeah, as far as that goes. Hands wiped off. Take a look at what we made. There we are. So what do we do next? Well, the next thing I got to do is grab the saran wrap. Saran wrap. I don't know why I put it away, but I did. Take this. Once again, just put it over the top so we don't get a crust on the top. I mean, if you do, it's quite all right. I mean, really, it is. Yeah, but, I mean, we want to try not to get one all the same, if at all possible. Yeah, so we're going to put that back on top of there, put our saran wrap on so it's nice and good. And then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. All right. We got that on there. So, what do we do next? Well, I'm glad you asked. Wow, you look really good today. I am so glad you were just happy and enjoying the day. It shows you're glowing. So the next thing we're going to do, oh, thanks. I didn't even do anything today. But what we're going to do now, we're going to put this in the fridge. Now, you can chill it for 5 or 6 hours. So like if you made it in the morning, it'll be ready for dinner time for dessert. Best practice would be overnight. So, but we're not going to do best practice because I don't want to wait till tomorrow to eat this. So we're going to let it chill about 5-6 hours, maybe a little longer. I mean, it's 10:45 in the morning now. We're probably not going to eat dinner till 6-7 o'clock tonight. So, I mean, it'll sit in there a good 7-8 hours at any rate. So that's close to overnight. And then that way we can have it for dessert tonight after dinner. So when I come back, we'll finish getting it back together. We'll have sat in the fridge for at least 7 hours. And we'll take a look at it, make up some whipped topping, and finish her off and try a slice. All right, I'll see you here this evening. I'm back. That was only a millisecond for you, but it's literally been all day for me. So we ended the last segment at 10:45 this morning. It's now almost 7:30 at night. So that is sat in there for about 8 hours, 45 minutes. And it is nice and solid. You'll see it here shortly. Pulled it out already. Got the saran wrap off of it. One thing I didn't mention is if you have like a non-stick spray, you should put that on your saran wrap, your plastic wrap. That way it ensures it doesn't stick to the custard. Not that it should, but once again, I mean, we don't want to take that chance. So now all we have to do is make the whipped topping real quick and put the whipped topping on there, top it with some bananas, and we'll be in good shape. With this whipped topping, you know, it's not a stable topping. So by stable, I mean, it can't sit out. It'll break down and be weird by morning. So this is definitely going to be a pie you want to keep in the fridge if you can. So let me get you down here to a good view, and we will start making our topping, our whipped cream. It's not hard to do at all. It's 3 basic ingredients. The biggest thing you have to look for is when your heavy cream starts to whip and it starts to get firm, that you don't over whip it. It'll make it tough. It won't be fluffy and smooth as much as it'll be more like a light rubber, so to speak, because we're not using any cream of tartar in this, which stabilizes it and keeps you from over whipping. So you can't over whip this. So your main ingredient is 2 cups of heavy cream, heavy whipping cream. And we're going to put that in there. Grab a plastic spatula real quick so I can get that cream out of there. No sense in wasting it and making the dish water any milkier than it's already going to be from that. And we'll throw that in there. The next ingredient we need is a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. Now with these, you can use as less and as much as you want to make as much or as little as you want. This is just what we're doing. So we're going to dump our powdered sugar in there and then put that down, lock it in place, and we're going to plug it in. Those that are new, I don't plug anything until the very last minute. We got little hands around here who like to come around and turn things on. It could hurt them, hurt us, make a mess. You know, it's just easier to wait till the last minute when we're here and we can oversee things. So now we're just going to turn this on, and we're going to work it up to high as the powdered sugar gets in there. And we're just going to whip it until it's whipped cream. All right, we are pretty much there. And like I said, it's not something, hey, it only takes like 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Not something you want to walk away from. And we still got to add our vanilla in there, so we're not, I mean, we're literally there like in a matter of seconds. But see how we got a nice whipped topping, smooth, creamy. Tastes amazing, even without the vanilla. And the vanilla is simply for flavor. I'm putting 1 teaspoon in there to give it that whipped cream taste. But you can put a half teaspoon in there. You can put 2 teaspoons in there. You don't have to put any in there. And we're just going to give it a quick mix in. Literally, quick mix in. That easy. Yeah, you can't beat it for the price. And reality, making your own whipped cream, A, you know what's in it. B, it tastes way better. And it's actually more cost effective to make your own. I mean, and I know you can say there's a couple brands out there that are only 99 cents a container. But for the amount of whipped cream you can make with one small thing of heavy cream, a quart of heavy cream, and some powdered sugar, it's cheaper than that. And we've got like one of the jumbo containers that are, you know, almost twice the price. Let me get this out of the way. All right, there's our pie. Now, see, you know it's set. See how it just jiggles a little bit like a custard should, like if you shook a pudding that you made? That's what we're looking for. So far, we're on the right track. Then we're going to take our whipped cream here, get it off the edges. Put it on the top there. A little further out to the edge. Yeah, now if you like a lot of whipped cream, pile it a mile high. You know, you'll see some banana cream pies that got 800 feet of whipped cream on the top, which is great. I like whipped cream. I ate a lot of it as a kid, straight out of the container or out of the spray container. But as an adult, I like it, but not nearly like I did when I was a kid. So we got our whipped cream on there, and then we're just going to take banana number 5 because I accidentally ate the rest of the bananas from earlier. Which is okay. Bananas, even though they're like one of the more unhealthy of the healthy things to eat, it's still okay to eat them. And we're just going to place a few bananas on here like such. I think if we were going for looks, I would almost win a contest. But just because it smelled good when we made it and it looks good now does not mean that it's going to taste good. I mean, you don't know. But we are, like I've said in previous videos, we're 2/3 of the way there, and that's, you know, pretty sweet. So, there we are. There is our completed banana cream pie. I think it looks good. So, let me get some stuff to cut this with and something to put it on, and we'll give it a shot. Alright, so I got knife, pie piece remover, and a plate. So we'll cut us out a little piece here and see what kind of damage we did. Now, remember I said earlier at the beginning of this video, wasn't sure if I had enough butter in the crust. So that's primarily what I'm looking for. You know, my custard should be good. It feels pretty thick. Now, let's say you want your custard to be really firm. I mean, really firm. This recipe makes it a little creamier. So if you want it to be a little firmer, you just simply, well, maybe if I can get the thing down in there, you just simply add more cornstarch. So instead of doing that 1/3 of a cup, you may want to do, a 1/2 a cup. Or go by the tablespoon for that matter. There we go. Getting the first piece out is always the worst. Anybody that's made a pie knows that. We fell apart. Well, that's alright. You know what? It's still going to taste amazing, I bet. My custard isn't quite thick enough. So, what caused this problem? It could be a couple things. A, I didn't let it sit overnight. I did let it sit 8 hours, and I'm not sure what overnight is exactly. But, and there we are. It fell apart. Not a lie. But, what caused that? It could be I didn't let it sit long enough in the fridge. So, it may firm up by morning. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, I'm not winning any contests. Although it is contest worthy as far as looks go. But it could be I didn't get the custard hot enough and activate the cornstarch completely. And that is a grand possibility. So, but I don't know. And I don't know, only because as much as I have experienced in baking now, I'm not that experienced in baking. I don't know a lot of the science behind baking, but I do know that when you're thickening up a custard, if you don't get it to a certain level, it will struggle to set. So I'm sure letting this sit in the fridge completely overnight, by morning it will be firmed up. It just means it takes longer to set up, but that is a possibility also. So it could be I didn't let it sit long enough, or I didn't get the custard hot enough, but that's all right. We're going to try it anyhow. That is really good. So, I've never tried a vanilla wafer crust before. That's completely brand new to me. And that's really good. The custard itself is very creamy. Very creamy. It's got a nice richness to it. And you taste the vanilla, and you've got the bananas in with it. I think it's I want to keep the recipe. I really like it. It's not the first banana cream pie we've ever made, I don't think. Although I can't recall the last time we made one. But it's got great flavor on it. So the next time I make it, I know I either need to, although it was pretty thick, so I can't imagine it was that. It may have just not sat in the fridge long enough. Best practice is overnight, and there's a reason why there's a best practice. But we'll find out the next time I make it. I can give you an update on it when we make it next. But until then, I'm going to enjoy it as it is. I know Chris wants a piece. I'm pretty sure Sarah wants some of it. And we'll celebrate my failure by eating it anyway. So, next week, I don't know what we're going to talk about Tuesday or do on Tuesday yet. Wednesday, still don't know what we're going to cook yet. I'll know more come Tuesday. And Thursday, Thursday I do know. Thursday, we're going to make a cheesecake. And we're going to do a cinnamon toast crunch cheesecake per request. So, that I know for certain. But Tuesday and Wednesday, who knows what it's going to bring. Every week's a new adventure for our family. So until then, I love you. Try this recipe. Let it sit overnight in the fridge. Make sure you are good and boiling with your custard mixture before you put it in the fridge to cool. I'm pretty sure I just didn't let it boil long enough. Maybe let it boil for 4 or 5 minutes after you get it boiling. And try this. Let me know if you have success with it. I'm going to try it again and see if I have success with it. And I'll probably try it again this week because I don't like to be wrong. But anyhow, I'm going to go enjoy my disastrous creation. I love you. I love you very much. Tell somebody else you love them and love them very much. Make a successful banana cake, a banana pie, and share it with somebody. Or even if you don't make a successful banana pie, banana cream pie. Share it with somebody. It's going to taste great. They're going to be like, all right, so you failed, but it tastes really good. You know, or you may be successful. Or if you know what I did wrong, let me know. All right? So until next week, I love you, and I will see you then. All right?